overused in several cases before. They dig into the track, and of course, that doesn't give you any traction at all.
Well, as I recall last year, Paul, the pulling course had really a different personality to it. It was harder, and it got better as the pulling progressed. Not so far tonight, but who knows? Maybe a man with Manuel's experience and obvious talent can make this all work for him. I'll tell you, there's sure a huge crowd pulling for it. A lot of Texans, as you might imagine, in the Astrodome.
So he's hooked up. This is the last pull in the 6,200-pound 4x4 truck, a rev of that engine.
Boy, he is going for it, isn't he, Paul? Whacked that throttle a couple of times to get all 8 cylinders running clean. And here is the best in the business, Manuel Moreno. Can he top 292.5 feet? Here comes the weight transfer box. He's still a ways away. He's slowing, and it stops him dead in his track short.
Digs into the course at 269.97 feet. Not nearly good enough. So Moreno, in a final bid, the last puller of the evening in the 6,200-pound 4x4, can't get the job done. So we take a look at the final results for 6,200-pound modified 4x4 trucks. And Tony Osteen, with his pull, a magnificent one of 292.5 feet, is the winner. Let's go to the far end and Steve.
Well, Paul, Manuel Moreno unable to make it 2 wins in a row here at the Super Nationals. And Manuel, looking at that pull, it appeared that you were bitten by the draw earlier. If you'd have pulled earlier in the class, you might have won it.
The crowd went a little bit away, but well, that's the name of the game.
Just incredible horsepower considering the track conditions. It's rumored that you have the biggest engine in this kind of pulling. Care to reveal how big it really is?
704 cubic inches.
704 cubic inches.
Chevrolet motor.
No wonder it has some power. Well, better luck next year. We'll see you then.
Thank you.
Well, Steve, he's down on the entry form at 604 cubic inches, 604, 704. It didn't do him any good at all. On the far side, Southern Storm, the monster truck of Robbie Giles, and he will face this machine. The Master of Disaster, a member of a brand new association.
Since we were last here at the Astrodome, there's been a new organization for it, the MTRA, Monster Truck Racing Association. It is comprised of the owners and drivers of these machines and is dedicated solely to safety. Let me show you some of the things that have come about in just a few months thanks to this new organization. I'll use the Master of Disaster truck as a good example. Now, they don't use wheel brakes on these trucks. They use driveline brakes, one fore and one aft. And that brake rotor in there could spin as high as engine speed, 6,500 RPM. Now, should it explode, come apart, it'd probably blow the tires right off the truck. So it is now required to be encased in 1/4-inch steel. Nothing's going to get through that. Okay, now alongside the engine now there are steel side covers. Should you break a connecting rod and any of the pieces get through the block or the oil pan, these huge thick plates are going to keep those pieces between the frame rails where they belong. Now, you'll notice the yellow blanket around the automatic transmission. That is ballistic nylon. Again, should there be any kind of a transmission problem, it'll contain the pieces. We know that works. We've seen it in other forms of motorsport. The drive line is of prime concern. Each of the U-joints also is protected in a bell housing, if you will, 1/4-inch steel around every U-joint. And see the 2 loops right there around the drive shaft? Should that drive shaft come loose on one end or the other, it can't just whip around, creating all kinds of havoc. But the trucks aren't the only concern of the MTRA. They have also drafted a list of suggestions for promoters as to how to design safer and less destructive courses. The one on the floor of the Astrodome today is a prime example. Remember last year a couple of close calls, near collisions? Well, you'll notice tonight the trucks are a little wider spaced.
They're doing a great job not only making the sport safer, they are definitely making it faster. Southern Storm, Robbie Giles, the driver. He comes from Goose Creek, South Carolina. He's driving a Ford. He faces Doug Spanier from Albany, Minnesota in his Chevrolet. Monster trucks on the line and ready to go.
Well, you know, Paul, at one time, the monster trucks were really a novelty and a tractor pull that go out and crush a few cars and drive the people out of their minds. This competition is a relatively new thing, and there's a lot of techniques these drivers and builders are having to learn. Master of Disaster, maybe in the wrong gear, something, it's not going anywhere. Southern Storm is off on a single run.
You know, it's too bad, too, because Southern Storm is really having a nice run. He gets a little wide on the turn, but he obviously is aware that Master of Disaster is stopped back at the starting line, and he can really take it easy right now as he works his way over those crush cars. Look at that thing bounce. The Southern Storm, in what is really a bye run, wins this round as Master of Disaster breaks on the line. Finally, Master of Disaster gets going, comes down the course, and all he's really doing is putting on a show for the magnificent fans here, and he drives off the course completely, just trying to get out of the Houston Astrodome, having lost this round. So now, let's speak with the driver of the Southern Storm, Robbie Giles.
Great drive.
Thank you very much, Steve. He had a bad start somehow. I didn't see what happened. I was concentrating on my side, but somehow I didn't get off the line.
As smooth, it looks like the track suits your style to a T.
Yes, sir. We got a good suspension this year on it. It's our new truck, and it's really helped out a lot.
Those old straw bills appear to be working, too.
Yeah, it's the first time we've used that. It keeps them getting the big holes in all the cars. It's really working nice.
Why don't you go tune it up?
Thank you, Steve.
So another round of the monster trucks complete, and we're back at the starting line for the 5,800-pound dragster tractors. Wayne Sullivan backs Kentuckian up and ready to hook up and go.
This is one stout piece of machinery, Paul, from Warsaw, Kentucky. Now, they use the big agriculture-type tires on the back, and these tires are pretty tough. They seldom ever wear them out. In fact, you'll see most of these tires now are shaved. They've even gotten rid of the big blade effect on those tires. They were just digging up the track too bad. Now, that's required. You put your hands in the air like that so that all of the people working between the tractor and the sled know that you're not accidentally going to knock that into gear or touch the hand throttle.
Of course, the appearance of these machines, though these are highly modified, kind of harkens back to the original days when you took your tractor off your farm, went to the county fair and pulled against your neighbor. Now, we're talking 2 Rodex engines in here, so we're talking some major modifications. 260 feet is the course length as we watch Wayne Sullivan from Warsaw, Kentucky.
And as is demonstrated by Mr. Sullivan, these monsters are not easy to drive. Now, there's the big box that stopped on the sled. It pulled the Kentucky into a stop as well, but not before he got a full 260 feet and better.
That's right. He ran the entire distance, and look at the front end come off the ground. Of course, really, you want to try and keep that front end down because when you transfer the weight backwards, you're also causing it to dig in just a little bit. Well, Wayne Sullivan with a full pull, and that gives you an idea of what may be coming up. Back at the line now, here comes Ron Headley. The machine is called Betty's Headache. Headley comes out of Fairfield, Iowa, and we are watching the highly modified dragster tractors.
I don't think modified is the word here, Paul. I think it's custom built. There may be nothing but maybe the rear end housing in this thing that ever came out of any kind of a tractor, and you're looking at 2 GMC supercharged Hemi racing engines. The exhaust pipes, the Zumi headers like you find on a dragster at the drag strip, but everything else is totally different. They run on alcohol fuel. They don't run quite the blower boost of compression you run in drag racing because these guys, they pull almost every night of the week and you don't have time to take them apart and fix them. Now, the wheels are spinning as it feeds the throttle to it. This is it looked to be a nicely balanced tractor until the front end got up too high. You can see there's only 2 suitcase weights on the front. He might have wanted more, but still, it's a full pull on this abbreviated 260-foot course.
So now we have 2 machines completing a full pull. Makes you wonder if the distance shouldn't have been set just a little bit further. We look back at Ron Headley's run. Now you see his hand on the wheel and he's giving it a spin. Doesn't do any good. The wheels aren't on the ground. They're actually controlling this thing with the brake, but if you put too much brake on, then you slow down the rear wheels. That slows down your run. You don't go the distance. Ron Headley, in fact, got the distance. He's a full pull, along with Wayne Sullivan, who also had a full pull. So we're going to have a pull-off. Ron Headley completes his course, bouncing the machine up and down, probably needs a little bit more weight on the front. Steve?
You know, people underestimate the amount of driving talent and more track savvy and sensing the track that's involved in this sport. It's pretty incredible.
It's really especially important on a tractor like ours where we have to get the weight all on the back wheels, but we do not want the front end very high because that lowers our drawbar, so it's real critical for us.
Well, you did a great job. See you in the pull-off.
Thank you.
Well, it looks like we're going to have a hot pull-off. Let's see who else might make it in. Will it be Billy Kelly as he starts his engine on the Denham Springs Express?
Well, the old Astrodome is fairly rocking tonight with the TNT Redman Super Nationals Truck and Tractor Bulls. I'm Steve Evans along with Paul Page, and that is Billy Kelly. He is hooked to the sled in the 5,800-pound modified dragster tractor class. 2 drivers already are in the pull-up, and Kelly may be headed that way, Paul.
The machine is the DS Express, and we've had 2 full pulls so far. Did Billy Kelly get it done? Yes, indeed. A third full pull, so we've got a whale of a pull-off coming. I wonder who else, Steve, is going to make it into this field.
We'll find out in a few minutes, but right now it's time for Bigfoot as monster truck action continues. And Bigfoot will be up against one of the better monster trucks in the country, Paul, Stomper.
Stomper is a great-looking Chevrolet, Steve, driven by a couple of folks. Gail Pepper drives sometimes. Now it's being driven by Mike Witt. And, of course, he faces the challenge of Bigfoot, driven by Rich Hooser. Now, these monster trucks have some very sophisticated safety equipment on board.
The Monster Truck Racing Association has just recently instituted some interesting new safety regulations regarding the driver and the cockpit. Let's take a look at the interior of the famed Bigfoot. First of all, roll bars are now mandatory in all trucks. 4-point mounted, 1/8 of an inch wall thickness, and heavily padded where needed. Also, the driver, Rick Hooser, must have a substantial kill switch, not just some kind of a little toggle switch, but something he can get a hold of. And here in Bigfoot, it's mounted in the dash. And Rick pushes this in if he wants to kill the engine instantly, rather than pulling it. It's always easier to push something than it is to try to grab it and pull it. Now, experimental here today on Bigfoot is a remote control kill operation. Okay, you see the antenna on this box attached to the roll cage? One of Rick's crew people has a little remote control, like you change channels with on the TV. Well, if Rick should become unconscious or incapacitated for whatever reason, they just push a button, the truck just stops instantly right in its tracks. Now, all of the drivers will be wearing flame retardant clothing. That wasn't required before, suggested but not required. The blood type is also ID'd there on the suit. Now, as far as the helmet is concerned, it must be a Snell-approved helmet, just like you'd find in any other form of professional motorsports. Now, Rick also likes to wear this pad on his arm because he hangs out the window so much that his arm was getting a big bruise on it, and Bob Chandler, the owner, said he was also denting up the door. So you'll see that on this particular driver. And he also, you will find a neck collar. Everyone is using these, and it really has improved their neck as far as the next morning is concerned. They're not all stiff and sore. Now, also, they must always have a halon fire extinguisher very handy to the driver. In Bigfoot, it attaches to a bracket just to the left of the seat. There are now competition-style lap belts in all of these trucks. And all in all, the drivers, the crews, the associations are really going forward as far as safety is concerned with these vehicles as they become faster and more competitive.
You're talking some serious sophistication in the monster trucks. Round number 2, that's Bigfoot on the near side, Stomper on the far side as they await the green flag. Bigfoot gets the rollout.
Oh, yeah, a hole shot by Rich Hooser, and now you're on board Stomper. Look at all the flash bulbs going off in the Astrodome. And probably through that windshield, you're going to, yeah, there's Bigfoot off in the lead, having already made that turn.
Well, Stomper's got his hands full, and look at Bigfoot. Flags flying at the back as Stomper makes the turn now, tries to get up over the moguls. Bigfoot wins it, and you can see out the front of Stomper definitely some problems. They've slowed down substantially as he comes over those crushed cars. Little horizon, little grandstand, a little of everything out the front of Stomper. One thing's for sure, Stomper comes in second place. Bigfoot wins the round.
Well, let's take a look at the Stomper truck in action. I'll tell you, this machine gives gravity a bad name. Look at how high in the air 5 tons can get.
Takes a whale of a bounce on those already crushed cars. Look at him. He comes up for a second round and almost gets her upside down, but brings Stomper back under control, and that really cost him. Bigfoot wins the round. Over in the pulling lane, Missouri's Ed Gobro. He's ready in the Blue Ox. This is the 5,800-pound class dragster tractor, and we have several full pulls already. What will happen when the Blue Ox fires up?
Well, the distance is 260 feet. This is a twin-engine tractor. If all is right, oh, the balance is beautiful on this machine. Look at him, Paul. I think he could drag it all the way to Galveston. What a pull by Ed Gobro.
Boy, you couldn't ask for a nicer round, and the crowd here in the Astrodome shows their appreciation. A full pull, so now he goes into contention with 3 other men, and they don't come much better than that. He just yanked that weight all the way down the 260-foot course.
The only thing I noticed here, Paul, in the replay is look at the chassis flex, okay? The balance is nice, but you'd rather have those front wheels a little more level instead of that right wheel dipping down. And that's all because the torque of the engines is just twisting the